We don't even really have an intro, so we just make one up every time we go for this. So, welcome to Infinite Real Estate Group. We're in the Own It podcast. Chad Morgan, Jared Johnson, and we're here with our special guest, Alan from Original Inspections. Welcome,
Welcome,
Alan.
Alan. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so Alan is the inspector extraordinaire,
Sure.
and we're excited to have him because we want to talk about home inspections. We want to talk about the importance of them. I want to kind of dive into some interesting inspections and also yeah, I just want to kind of see what you're seeing out there, things that we should be looking for. So yeah, so we're super excited to have you. I've actually used Alan ever since I started in this business. I don't even know where we met or how we got in touch with each other. How was that?
I forget his name. I met him at Impact. He had me do his home inspection. That's where I met him.
Oh, we're
For
talking about Junior.
Junior. Junior.
That's right. I sold Junior a house. Junior, you're always listening to my stuff. You're a supporter, and if you're hearing this, what's up?
Junior's
Yeah,
a great guy. Yeah.
yeah. No, super cool guy. So, but yeah, that's where I met you. Okay, we sold my house in Lehigh, and you were there doing the inspection. So cool. All right. Well, Alan, let's go ahead and just dive into this. What I want to do is kind of just introduce yourself, and let's kind of your company and what it's all about.
Okay. So I decided to name my company Original Inspections. I think I went to the
That's
original
original.
Pancake House.
Were you eating at the original pancake house and you're like, you know what? Original
Inspiration.
inspection.
Inspiration.
Be careful where you eat. At least it wasn't Denny's inspections. Uh, and I don't know. I got into the passion of home inspections after I'd bought a home back in 2009, and it was not the home we thought we'd bought. There was all kinds of issues that
Mm,
weren't talked about, weren't discovered during inspections.
yeah.
I've been in construction long enough. I know the terms. I know where everything's supposed to go, how it's supposed to go together. Why am I paying this guy to do this when he just walked through the house, didn't notice most things? So I decided to open my own business.
You just jumped into it then,
I
right?
did.
So if there was so many things wrong with your house,
I should have noticed it too.
why didn't you
Yeah.
notice it, Alan?
Well, I was out of town. I'd gotten back, and the at the time wife had decided that's the home for her, so
Mm.
there wasn't much talking her out of it at that point.
So you just, use your skills elsewhere and fix the house.
I did. I
Good.
did.
Nice.
So tell us a little bit about how you got it. I mean, so you've been in construction. How long has Original Inspections been around?
Well, first I opened up as Kirkham Inspections, and then I decided to change it after I'd gotten a secretary to Original Inspections. So before that, I was open. Original, I think I've had it 5 years,
Oh, cool.
6 years.
Yeah. So a little bit about Alan. The guy doesn't sleep. He's actually keeping those UTA light rails up and running for us all when we're using them at night. And then during the day, you do about 2 home inspections a day.
At most, I won't do more than two.
Yeah.
But
Why is that?
I take my sweet time. I don't want to feel rushed. I want to notice everything about the home.
Mm-hmm.
Going through the military, like attention to detail was just drilled into my head. As a
Yeah.
kid, it was drilled into my head. Having OCD, I notice more things than I want to.
Well, let's talk about that military. First of all, thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Second of all, tell us a little bit about what branch were you in? Kind of tell us a little bit about your service there and what you did.
Okay. So I decided I wanted to join in 2001 after the towers got attacked, and left in 2002 after I'd graduated. Went into the Navy. I was airframes, hydraulics, and structural out in China Lake, California. So the middle of the Death Valley, absolutely
Uh-huh.
nothing out there, right?
Yeah.
At the time, we didn't have cell phones, so you couldn't see on Google Maps. Oh, it's a dry lake back there.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, Lake California sounds great.
Nope.
No,
Death
middle of the Mojave
Valley.
Desert. Yep,
Yeah.
connected to absolutely nothing but a
Yeah.
Joshua tree and some sagebrush.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful.
But I got to work on some cool platforms: the FA-18, the EA-6B, the Harrier, and
Cool.
the Cobra. But
Carrier.
yeah, yeah, got to work as a mechanic on those.
So were you what's that word, sound engineer, Chaz? What you deployed? Where were you deployed?
No, I didn't. I stayed
Really?
stateside the whole
Stayed
You
in
were
time.
staying
California.
Yeah.
stateside, just doing flight mechanic stuff, or
Yep.
okay. My dad was a flight mechanic
That's awesome.
for a little for the Air Force, so I remember as a little kid before all the 9/11 stuff, we'd go climb up on the C-147s, like climb on the wings and
Yeah.
across the plane. When the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds flew in, he'd come grab us and like we'd be able to sit in the cockpit,
That's awesome.
shake hands with the pilot. So
Yeah.
different time now on a military base.
It really is. I've done a couple home inspections for some of the F-35 pilots here that have flown in and that are stationed here in Hill. And boy, they're fun guys. They're really fun guys. But
Yeah,
man, you got to be in tip-top shape to be able to do that.
Yeah.
totally.
Well, I wouldn't fit
Big
in one of those
task.
planes.
But neither. These guys are in phenomenal shape. Chaz might be able to.
Well, you'd have to
Chad,
like
Chad,
cut me off at the knee.
Chad's like perfect. I think I'd struggle too. I think you'd have to be chopped at the knee.
Chaz is in the Air Force. Fun fact.
Sound engineer Chaz. Chaz works on all the electrical.
Nice.
He's an electrician.
I can definitely appreciate that. That's what I do with UTA, working on the trains when they come back at night, right? Because they're electrical, so they're
Mhm.
mechanical and electrical. And being
Mm.
able to work on those graveyard shift, 8 at night till 6:30 in the morning, get off, take a nap, go inspect some
Yeah.
homes.
Would you?
So
Oh,
no, go for it.
I was gonna say, would you say your kind of mechanical background with working on so many very hands-on projects, would you say that's kind of helped you in the home inspection business? And if so, how?
Absolutely, I worked as a machinist too for 13 years.
Hmm.
Just worked for Williams International, building jet engine housings.
Yeah.
I built parts that have been on supposed to go to the moon. But worked on all kinds of aerospace parts, spinal cord implants.
Oh, cool.
So as a machinist, working, understanding perpendicularity and parallelism, flatness. When I'm looking at a building, right, I see homes and some of this new construction. You'll see whole walls leaning up where there's gaps in between mirrors where you can
Those
see.
houses have fallen down the mountain already.
I've actually got an interesting story about that. There's a guy that I work with
We'll
who
get
Oh,
to
ran.
it.
really?
Okay, okay, later.
Because no, I really want to. This is the things that I've always been drawn to Alan and fascinated with him is because he's the attention to detail. I've actually had quite a bit of like selling agents when I've brought people over. Like, what do you mean you need 4 hours or 5 hours?
Uh-huh.
And they some of them get upset about that, but I actually enjoy it. Our clients are always thoroughly impressed and just so happy about
Mm.
the way you go through every single detail. I've been to so many other inspections where, I just feel like they didn't take the time to check everything, and it was more of a time crunch for them versus they paid me to come and inspect this house and make sure that every nook and cranny has been inspected, but very rarely do they do it all.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And on that note, yeah, everyone that I talk to is like, "Oh, you need 3 to 4 hours to inspect my condo or townhome." I'm like,
Well,
"Look."
he's really taking a nap for 1 hour.
I'm like, "Look." So I had someone who decided to use an inspector that their friend recommended. He showed up in a carpet cleaning van. And I'm like, "All right, like, so is this guy a home inspector or does he clean carpets?" So in Utah, you don't technically need to be licensed to be a home inspector. I mean, anyone could kind of get a business license and start doing that.
Sure.
I could do that, and I for sure know. I mean, ask these guys, ask anyone in the office. I do not know a lot about that part of the of homes, the actual structures and the systems and the HVAC and all that. So anyways, but that is one thing, yeah, I've noticed is Alan's very detail oriented. He does take 3 to 4 hours to inspect a home and he does a good job on that. And he shows up, he doesn't show up in his carpet cleaning van. He shows up in his original home inspections wrapped truck because this is his business and it's what he does. It's not just like a side gig that he does every now and then. So it really matters who you work with when it comes to home inspections.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely take longer than most. I don't know anyone that takes longer than me.
Yeah.
But I don't view that time as a waste. Like I'm not trying to fit three in every single day. I can only spend 2.5 hours here, and if we're not done, I got to go. I want the
Mhm.
buyers to know intimately every detail of their home that I see. When I get done with them, they need to know how to turn off the water, the power, the gas, how to turn the water back on, how to change the filter in their dishwasher, how to rinse that out. Like going through their dryer traps, running their HVAC, running their plumbing, every single shower head, every single faucet, fixture. I want them to be able to
Yeah.
see and know everything. And I don't know. Maybe I spend a little bit too long doing it, but I'm patient. And I'm methodical. So
Yeah. No, and it shows. One of the things that I kind of wanted to get into because we've been dealing with a lot of new builds, um, primarily because resale has been a little slow. And I think the reason it's been slow is because nobody wants to get rid of a 2.5% interest rate.
right.
No one wants to, by the time they upgrade their house, they're not only upgrading their house, but they're doubling the value of their home. And so the people that are selling are either A, moving for a job change or something, or B, it's a necessity. Whether it's they're older and they can't do the stairs anymore, or they're just growing out of their house. So we've been dealing with a lot of new builds lately, and it's surprising how much it's discouraged in this industry when it comes to new builds and getting home inspections. And to that point, well, yeah, like, so what is your experience like? Do you do a lot of new builds? Tell me about that. Like, does it, like, is it necessary?
Yes, absolutely. I think so. I just did a home this morning. I started there at 8:30, got there, came straight here. It's a brand new $1.25 million home,
Mm.
and missing smoke alarm, missing trim. Just areas that water can get into the house, like the drip rail flashing under the shingles was had a big large gap in between
Mm.
them. And I don't think that they're doing it on purpose, but I think when you're going through a process and you do it every single day, you get complacent. Complacency can happen, and if you don't have someone that's going through like myself that's actually going through and inspecting everything on the builder's behalf, then you need people like me to come in and double check that.
Yeah,
And I haven't found a builder yet that I haven't found anything on.
yeah. No, I mean we talk about that all the time. Like, should I get a home inspection on my new build? And it's my question is always like 100% yes. And the reason we talk about that is specifically because they're building these homes I think faster than ever right now.
Fast. Yeah.
Well, they could build them faster, but I think we deal with some problems around here, which is when we're dealing with labor and supplies
Hmm.
on a lot of things. But I mean, I have a new build over by my house by a national builder, and it's I swear like 2 3 months, and that house is already up and furnished, ready as a model home. Which is a very interesting process to watch. But I'm like, how do you feel about these national builders? And we've dealt with a couple of these national builders, and they are very, very strict when it comes to who, like, they don't let any inspector in there to
Right,
inspect their homes,
right,
which I don't know how they can do that if you're under contract and it's your right as um, a homeowner to get an inspection that's like essentially it's got to be a non-biased you know inspection.
Hmm.
But some of these national builders are like, nope, you can only choose from this one or this one. Is that something you're certified to do with these national builders, or what do you like? Tell me about like that thought process.
I
And
haven't jumped through the hoop with all of them, but I've worked with several that are national builders, and I'll tell you what, even on one, obviously staying away from names, but you looking in the bathroom mirror and you got a 4-inch gap on one side and a 1-inch gap on the bottom. All the walls are more than 4 inches off of plumb.
yeah,
I mean, the ICC, right? The International Code Council, the UBC, Utah Building Code, you're only supposed to have a half inch out of plumb on a wall. And when you're seeing more than 4 inches
Mm,
on one wall, and that builder's kicking it back, saying, "Well, if you don't want to buy it, there's 15 other people that will." They push that agenda that they don't have to do what you're expected to do and what they're expected to do by building code standards. They're passing it off, saying, "Well, there's someone else that'll buy it. Too bad.
mhm,
You either take it or you don't." Now you got these people that have moved all their stuff. They've got it in box trucks, moving trucks. They're ready to move in, and they're waiting on that home to finish. And I'm one of the last steps before they decide, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sign. And it's going to close next week or whenever. And when the builder tells them that, like you can just see their worlds get destroyed. They're in a bad position, and these
Yeah.
builders aren't willing to adjust
yeah,
to meet expectations. And city inspectors are getting paid minimal, right? Most of them make less than 20, 25. They're not getting paid top dollar, and it's not a living wage for them to spend enough time to be able to accurately go through a home like I
mhm,
do to measure everything out to check everything.
Yeah, and I don't know how they can check everything with the amount of homes that are being built around them. Just from my experience in the local city inspector when I built my garage, I mean, it was more about the relationship that the builder had with the home inspector. I
Mhm.
mean, the city inspector, because the city inspector just came and shot the shit with them,
Yeah,
didn't even really look at anything, and then signed it off and left. Like, I'm like, aren't you supposed to like check the foundation? Is there some, like what, like, because they have like inspection points throughout the build of it,
phase one, two, and
but
three. Yeah,
not once. And, and I could have been a little bit more of I was definitely a lot of probably a helicopter um, customer when it came because I was fascinated with seeing my garage, that I was going to be putting all my cars in built type of thing, and so I loved watching the process. But it kind of dawned on me like this inspector's not even really
mm,
like checking anything.
you brought up the houses up on Draper up on the hill
Yeah.
that had issues.
yeah.
I got an interesting story about
Do you know
that.
the wise man once built his house upon a rock,
But he
not a
did.
pile of sand?
Loose filter.
So the geographical when they're doing the samples and they're doing the soil compaction testing, they were asking the excavators where to check, right? So I work with a guy, and he'd mentioned that's one of the issues is the city inspectors when they're coming up to and when the inspectors are coming up to do that soil compaction testing, they're asking them where to check. So not all the foundations getting the same treatment. It's not like a random
Mm,
spot check around the perimeter of the footing that they're doing that soil compaction testing. So until they get that checked and they have a minimum number of points that they have to profile along a footing or the foundation, I don't see that changing.
Well, and I mean they've actually said they're expecting a couple more houses to move up there. I mean,
yeah.
two more have been condemned. But
Mm,
because of that, like I've always understood, and this is a very ignorant mind of mine, and so maybe you might know more about it. Um, but I mean, that topography of that land has been transformed from like thousands of years. And when you just start dumping fill dirt to change the topography of the land, Mother Nature's always going to win.
Right,
Like,
right.
like,
It's going to reclaim.
yeah, and it might happen, you know, a year in the build, or it might happen 20 years from now. Like, but I mean, this has happened on several occasions. I remember when we had some massive flooding down in southern Utah and all the homes that were built next to the riverbeds that have never been at that point for, 100 plus years,
Hmm.
the river decided to take that land back
Yeah.
and
mhm.
washed them all away. And so, like, was there a way they could have prevented something like that? Even though, like, if you look at the difference from the original topography to the houses that were built on there and all the fill dirt that was on there, is there a way to prevent that? Or is it just like they shouldn't have even done that?
If they would have left the soil and let it sit for a minimum of 7 years, that's kind of an industry standard, right? When you're building on soil, you bring in new soil, you got to let it sit for 7 years or compact it before you're allowed to build on top of it. I think that time period needs to be adjusted. Right, soil saturation
Mm,
levels change yearly depending on how much humidity and precipitation, the snowpack, the runoff. There's quite a few factors that need to come into play, and honestly, they need more consideration at the legislative level. You hear of homes out in West Bountiful that they're settling several inches, and they're just uh, not enough is being done to protect the average homeowner or buyer.
Yeah. I mean, and
Right.
I don't think, yeah, and I mean, this is, I mean, if we have any builders listening or someone that works for new builds, I'd love to get those inputs or something. Go ahead and message them in the comments. But um, for me, it's like it's crazy how much the new builds kind of beat to their own drum.
Hmm.
Like there's no, I mean, they have regulations and rules and stuff, but they follow a whole different set of rules just on selling. So us as real estate agents have to follow things a specific way. Builders don't have to use the same contracts. Builders get, and that's always kind of, and again, this is not me knowing anything about that side of it because there's a lot that I don't know, but there's also a lot that's like, well, how were they able to get away from this? And how did this, like, how does that happen? And how do we prevent this?
We have builders coming from different parts too, because if you looked out in like Harriman, South Jordan, right, there was a lot of MDF trim that was getting put on the outside of some of those homes.